Don't reinvent the wheel in non-core things. So like finance and operations, just use regular systems. Where you really got to excel as a brand is creating great quality products and making fun, engaging marketing.
It's the eCommerce Master Plan podcast. Here to help you solve your marketing problems and grow your e-commerce business. Cutting through the hype to bring you inspiration and advice from the e-commerce sector and beyond. Here's your host, Chloe Thomas.
Hello and welcome. It's great to have you here. Thank you for hitting play and choosing to listen to one of our inspiring guests. Now, I love to start some of our episodes with a little shout out to the listeners who are kind enough to take the time to post a review of the show, and I've got one of those to do right now. Huge thank you to Lynn Power, who left this lovely review on Podchaser for us. A great conversation getting into the nuts and bolts of running an e-commerce business. Great advice for anyone interested in e-commerce, D2C, business, marketing and more. Well, that's all of you, so you thankfully tuned into the right place. Lynn, thank you so much for that review. And if you, listening right now, would like a shout out at the start of an episode, then go to ecmp.info/review to find out how to leave us a review. In this episode, we are catching up with a phenomenal business. They lead the lights in the world of sustainability. They've grown from an idea in a bedroom to a full omnichannel business selling via a ludicrously large number of channels and into different countries, doing now £15 million a year in sales. And we're lucky enough to get to talk to one of the co-founders, to Chris, about how they've gone about building that, how they kind of the key tenets that have got them there. He's also dropping loads of nuggets of clever ideas and things which you can copy as we go through this. So really cool episode. Huge thanks to Chris for coming on the show. Please make sure you listen to the end so you don't miss out on his top tips, which are really good. And you'll get my own take on this episode as well. Also, there's a little bit of background chatter from Chris's team, who clearly are very excited to be working with Chris and at the brand. But please forgive us for that. We tried to get rid of as much of it as we can, but there's a little bit still left in. Are you using Yotpo for your email and SMS campaigns? Then you will already know the great news that they're sunsetting their email and SMS service at the end of this year. I know it's not the news you wanted to hear this close to peak. Yay, let's move our email system. So to help you with all of that, over on the eCommerce Tech website, we are putting together a couple of blogs to help you to navigate it all and to turn this surprise into a brilliant move for your business. One that can even, or certainly has the potential to even increase your peak performance. To get the blogs, go to ecmp.info/Yotpo. That's YOTPO and ECMP. And there you can read my 4-step plan to make the most of the situation. And you'll also get a roundup of advice from email marketing experts about what you should do. So ecmp.info/Yotpo.
My mornings are chaos. I need coffee that works as hard as I do. That's why I drink Everyday Dose, coffee with benefits. It's rich, delicious coffee boosted with mushrooms, collagen, and nootropics. Everything I need for focus and balance, ready in 30 seconds. The Black Friday sale is on. Get 61% off your first Coffee Plus Starter Kit, a free A2 probiotic creamer, and over $100 in free gifts. Plus, enter for a chance to win $100 cash or get your entire order refunded. Visit everydaydose.com/podcast or use code podcast at checkout.
And now to introduce our special guest. Chris Forbes is the co-founder at Cheeky Panda, leading the bamboo revolution, selling toilet paper, period products, kitchen roll and more. Founded in 2016, they now sell via multiple international Shopify sites and a plethora of wholesale and marketplace locations. Turnover is now £15 million a year. And did I mention they're a B Corp as well? Hello, Chris.
Hi, Chloe. Lovely to be here. Thanks for inviting me onto the show.
Awesome to have you here. Big fan of your products, your business and what you're doing. So it's really cool to have you here. But how did you get started in e-commerce? Was Cheeky Panda your first foray or was it before?
So actually, my first foray into e-commerce was with a website called fishingnet.com. which was back in 1996. And we decided to map out the Scottish river system and then sell services like hotels and accommodation and fishing tackle. So,
wow.
And that was actually, at one point, the second most visited fishing site in the entire world. So unfortunately, it didn't quite make it. It was in that sort of dot-com boom and bust stage of things. It never actually got any funding, but it just had absolutely loads of traffic. So, I've sort of always kind of been very sort of technically minded and into e-commerce ever since then. So, it's a good 30 odd years now.
Very cool. So how come you decided to start Cheeky Panda? Because almost 10 years ago now, which was kind of at the very beginning of the eco-consumer journey, was that your primary reason? Was the ecology? Was it the green side of it? Was it the financial side of it? Did you just have a desire to make kitchen roll?
I guess it was more as an original idea. So like a lot of ideas, because there's so many people have done so many different ideas, like a lot of ideas are twists of lemon, an original theme or like a copy. The fact that this was an original idea, taking the world's fastest growing plant and making it into tissue, which no one had done in Europe before us, that's what really excited me. I'd lived in the Highlands of Scotland, so, I've got a good appreciation of nature. And, you think, what sort of legacy do you want? And, I was running a business as a headhunting business, which was making slightly rich people richer. And as happy as it was for them, this definitely had a lot more meaning. So, I did it mainly for the sustainability angle, but I always thought there was a decent business in it as well.
Did you think it would get this big and this successful? Was that always your plan, or have you just kind of seen how it goes?
I always believed that the market was ripe for disruption. We had, businesses that have been doing the same thing for 30 years. And, I think in any sector where you looked at like that Kodak moment or, and digitalization of that, or, BlackBerry and then the invent of, the Apple, when you actually have things that are better products, I do believe that the market will shift, but it's always a question of time if it's you that helps make that shift. So lots of risk, but I always believed it would become a decent sized business. And we're now about 1% of the UK retail tissue market.
That's mad, isn't it? There's still so much potential.
Well, we've got 1%, but there's 99% we don't have. So
exactly.
I think even a couple of more percent is probably, we're not aiming to become the market leader. I don't think that's realistic, but, I think that, through time, we could definitely get to 5 to 10% of the market.
How exciting. Now, tell us let's go through the nuts and bolts of the business for anyone who's not hugely familiar with it. What are the products you're currently selling? What are your current ranges?
So we have like lots of different products. We've got some really nice D2C products, which would be like the toilet roll, which is on subscription. Great thing about toilet tissue, everyone uses it every day. So it's a high repeat product. Facial tissues, again, highly used. Kitchen towel. We've done sanitary products, which we launched earlier this year. That's been really successful. In total, we've got about 35 different SKUs. And it's a nice blend, but everything's made out of bamboo and everything is disposable.
And you said the D2C range. So is there a separate B2B range?
Yes, we do. We've got an omni-channel business. So we do supply stuff like hand towels, system rolls, which you would sort of more find in like office environments or like stadiums or sort of larger sort of industrial areas like airports, for example.
So kind of different reformatting of the same core product.
I mean, it's still bigger. All 100% bamboo. And instead of like maybe 200 sheets on these big rolls, you've got like more like 2,000 sheets.
Oh no, how did you work out at which point to expand the range?
I think a lot of it, particularly in the beginning, a lot of it, we started off with toilet tissue and then we had customers saying to us, well, can you make facial tissue? And we were like, well, it's always going to be good quality toilet tissue, so it'll make good quality facial tissue. So a lot of it in the early stages, we were sort of led by consumer feedback. And then in some cases, we work with retailers or we work with other distributors, and then they sort of started requesting other types of products. So we just sort of expanded the range based upon, do we think there's a big enough market in it for us? Does it fit with our brand? And if it does, and it's made out of bamboo, then that's absolutely something that we'll consider. Not all ideas made it. We've had a couple of failed products and some super successful ones as well.
Very cool. And What does the team look like these days? Because your team must have grown so much over the years.
Well, I mean, like we started off in the bedroom, myself and Julie, my wife, she's the CEO, a majority shareholder of the business. And, we then did the Facebook thing, which was kind of build a team in a house. And then she got pregnant, so we had to move out of the house. and then we ended up in shared offices, and eventually we ended up in our current home, which has got about 30 people in the UK. And then we've got a small team and 5 people in China, which help do working with our manufacturers and suppliers over there, because bamboo grows best in China. So that's where our products come from.
And how do you, presumably you're outsourcing some things, how do you decide what to outsource and what to keep within the business?
Yeah, we're not a warehouse business. We're not a manufacturing plant business. I think the good thing is just try to stay in your lane. I think that's good advice is, don't try to vertically integrate. Or certainly if you vertically integrate, you have to do it at scale. If we built a factory, then, we would have spent all the money before we got to a size. We'd be able to use the capacity of the factory. So I think don't reinvent the wheel in non-core things. So like finance and operations, just use regular systems. But where you really got to excel as a brand is creating great quality products and making fun, engaging marketing.
So is that's what the team, the 30 people in head office are doing? They're all about product and marketing?
Yeah, I mean, we are probably about 10 people are sort of sitting in finance and operations and sustainability, and then the rest would be in sort of sales and marketing. And
you have a specific sustainability team?
We have one individual that's full-time in that role, and then we all chip in as well, it's part of being a B Corp.
I find that fascinating because you would think the further down the B Corp journey you go, the less there would be to do. You can kind of like see when people begin on the sustainability or B Corp journey, it's like, right, we're going to designate a person to managing this the first time or maybe the second time we go through the process. But the fact that actually to keep on top of it, a business who had sustainability in their core from day one, you need that person who owns it, even in year 10.
Absolutely. I mean, sustainability is an evolving journey, right? So just because you've done something and you've got like a tick box in terms of like, we recently got gold EcoVadis, which we were very proud of, which is used by a lot of the big companies to evaluate how good a customer is or supplier. So we will always be given sort of like requests and, like carbon reporting is something that we have to do every sort of 2 years. So there's a constant workflow of things that we need to stay on top of. And, it needs a full-time dedicated resource to be able to just manage that. And in many instances, it also takes quite a lot of the other team's time as well, because it's, operations has to get involved, finance has to get involved, the rest of the wider team has to get involved. And, it's part of our core part of the business. So we all enjoy it. We never get any grumblings or, sustainability, we embrace it.
So Chris, you mentioned there about how you're constantly working on the sustainability and how big businesses are more and more asking for these factors and these kind of guarantees and marks and awards, etc., before they purchase from you. So is that one of the things you needed to get in line to be able to get into the big supermarkets? Because I know you've been doing a lot on that this year.
So a lot of the big supermarkets are now using EcoVadis or similar tools to assess the quality of a supplier. So it is important, and I think as we go forward. I mean, if I look back to 2016, there was none of this, right? So there's no frameworks or anything like that, and it is becoming more important. And as much from a governance point of view, we've got one large client that basically uses sustainability, implementing it as a way to mitigate risk. So that if you're doing the right thing and buying the right products, then even if laws change in a particular country, like sort of Sweden changes their laws or Denmark changes their laws, if you're a company, then you don't need to change your whole supply chain or hire an army of consultants in to change everything, because you're already ahead of what that legislation might look like. Where you end up in more trouble is where you're always firefighting. Oh, they've brought on a plastic ban. Oh no, we need to get rid of all these plastics in our business. But if you're kind of sort of forward thinking and sort of thing, actually, we can see down the pipe, we don't want chemicals in our business. We don't want these plastics in our business. And you're proactive, then it means when legislation does change, you're less likely to have to spend a lot more money at that time.
I think that's such a clever way of looking at the sustainability activity. It's not just sitting around waiting for the government to make it. It's pretty easy to see the writing on the wall of where they're going to be sending us all as businesses and as consumers. So to be keeping ahead of it makes sense. And so I guess for you as a business who've been ahead of the curve for so long, that must give you a slightly better chance when it comes to some of the big deals and the negotiations that are going on, because you can tick those boxes for your customers.
Well, I think at the end of the day, you can tick the boxes and you can have you can have all the right credentials, but essentially it's all going to come down to the quality of the products and the price. You'll probably be given about a 20% variation away from the mean in terms of what price would be, but as soon as you start to drift outside of that 20% price point, you're just going to become a very niche product. And listen, don't get me wrong, there's lots of categories in business where you can absolutely be a niche product and you can make lots of money and it can be a very, very nice business. But certain categories like tissue, you need to kind of be a mainstream business in order to make it work. So yeah, you kind of still need to be very conscious that you need to be competitive in your pricing, despite having all the credentials and having a great brand.
So something I mull a lot myself, and which we've discussed a fair few times on this podcast, is whether or not being sustainable is still a USP, which is kind of what we're drifting into talking about here. So let's slap up the words USP. Do you think there's a space for sustainability as a USP anymore? Or do you think you now, as Cheeky Panda, have a different USP?
I would say that it's less of a USP now, where it might have been sort of 5 years ago. I think people are expecting sustainability. I think the general 50% of consumers will not buy products that aren't sustainable. So, a large part of, it's just basically saying it's, you're going to cut that market out. So then it's all about, okay, but then how do you take that sort of mainstream consumer and how do you attract it? And I think you then start really coming into, your messaging and the quality of your products. And I think that's probably, we lean much more into quality and softness and strength of tissue than we do. We don't lead with sustainability anymore. We lead with our products are better than Kleenex, our products are better than Andrex.
And you mentioned before we got on this call that you've just launched in Morrison's and Tesco's. So huge congratulations for that. But that you did, because you also mentioned there that messaging is a big part of what you do, try and get the right message in front of the consumer. And I know you did some slightly zany things to celebrate those launches. Is that humanizing of the brand, that amusement value of the brand, is that a key part of the USP as well to help you stand out in the market?
I mean, Cheeky Panda is a family brand. There's enough things that are hard enough in the world right now, politics and, cost of living crisis and stuff like that. You don't need someone beating you over the head with a stick on sustainability. You almost want it to be fun. You almost kind of want it to be this lovable friend where you can sort of say, in my house, I've got this thing and it feels like cuddly because it's a panda and it's friendly. And that's really how we see our brand. And we can have a lot of fun with it. And as you alluded to there on our Instagram, we've got a panda with a trolley being chased by the Tesco supermarket manager. It's absolutely hilarious. And I think, if you've got a giant panda as a mascot and, you're a brand called Cheeky Panda, you can have a lot of fun with it. And I think bringing a smile to people's faces is probably one of the best things you can ever do as a brand.
And so much more interesting than just kind of one of those press release Instagram posts. We're now available in Tesco. Marvellous. No, give me the panda being chased by the manager with a trolley around the supermarket. That's what's going to stick in the customer's mind, isn't it? It's I think
it must have been a challenge for our marketing manager who was in the costume at the time. Pushing a trolley with a big panda outfit. It's hilarious.
Did you flip a coin to see who had to go in the costume?
We've all been in that costume. I've been in that costume. He's probably Colin as part of the team.
So what have you got planned? What's coming up in the business that's your big focus now?
Well, really interesting stats that we have was in the UK, we've got about 33% brand awareness. And when you get to over 50%, you become a household name. So we're sort of tipping now. So we'll hit in the next sort of 6 to 12 months, we'll become a household name. So I guess when you start out a business in your bedroom, you always kind of sort of dream of kind of being like a household name, and to sort of see that's happening is such an amazing feeling. And the fact we sold 86 million toilet rolls last year and 5 million different products. It just shows the size of the number of people that have actually embraced our products in our range. And I think that's just so rewarding. And to know the amount of trees and plastic and carbon that we've saved as part of people making those purchasing decisions, it's just exceptionally rewarding.
That stat of becoming a household name, I had no idea you could actually track that, but that must be, I think if I was you, I'd have almost like a live feed up on the wall of the office. Oh, it's gone to 34, 35.
You have to feel like we get the data from YouGov because that's one of the better ways to do it. So because it does it all across the country, so you can sort of see different demographics. We index higher in the southeast and less in the north, where we've got less distribution. But now that we're getting distribution further up into like northwest and southwest and into Scotland, then we'll start to see that tipping. But you have to pay for it every time, so it would be very, very expensive to keep paying for all these YouGov surveys just to see at which point we tip. I think maybe sort of like one every 6 months is a right number.
And presumably the rate that percentage increases is exponential. I'm guessing to get from 33 to 50 should be, if you don't screw something up, whatever, then it should be easier to do that than it was to get from 20 to 33. I haven't got the maths right there. Forgive me,
100%. And getting to 10% is probably the hardest thing. And then once you start to get distribution, you start to get word of mouth. And then once you get distribution, then people see it more often, and then they sort of recognize it. And consumers have to see things 3 to 7 times in order for them to make a purchase. So, all things that we do kind of makes an impact in that, whether it's seeing it in a local store or seeing it online or seeing a Facebook ad or seeing, an Instagram post or hearing someone else talk about it. These are all things that just build up trust. And I think once you got to establish that trust and that brand visibility before people can make sort of purchasing decisions. So there's a science to it, and it does take time and effort. And some people get very lucky on TikTok and just overnight become an overnight phenomenon. But for most businesses, you really have to kind of work quite hard at it to get to this point.
And as an omnichannel business co-founder, do you care what channel the sale comes from, or is it about overall consumers reached, overall number of products sold, and so long as the channels make financial sense and strategic sense, you're not too worried where the sale comes from? Or do you prioritize one channel over another when it comes to your own in-house marketing activity and so forth?
Every channel's got its pros and cons. So, if you just said sort of 5 years ago, D2C was easy, it's the best channel because cost of acquisition was low. Now with Google and Meta, cost of acquisition is very high and there's lots of competition in cost of acquisition. So yeah, while you own the data, and that's great that you own the data, you've got customer stuff and you can upsell and do lots of creative things with your customers, it becomes sort of margin challenge to keep building that top. It's not just, you can just an easy formula. In retail, it's a slightly different game, but it's more like mass market. So each channel has got, and 60% of people in my category buy their toilet tissue from the grocers. So I'm not going to get that 60% to switch to go buy online. They'll buy it in the channel that they feel happiest to buy it in. So, for us, it's all about being in the channel that someone wants to buy, having that availability. And if they've got the availability, then hopefully they choose us and not another brand.
E-commerce Master Plan is supported by some of the greatest companies in the e-commerce sector. Here's a reminder of who they are.
Are you using Yotpo for your email and SMS campaigns? Then you will already know the great news that they're sunsetting their email and SMS service at the end of this year. I know it's not the news you wanted to hear this close to peak. Yay, let's move our email system. So to help you with all of that, over on the eCommerce Tech website, we are putting together a couple of blogs to help you to navigate it all and to turn this surprise into a brilliant move for your business. One that can even, or certainly has the potential to even increase your peak performance. To get the blogs, go to ecmp.info/Yotpo. That's YOTPO and ECMP. And there you can read my 4-step plan to make the most of the situation. And you'll also get a roundup of advice from email marketing experts about what you should do. So ecmp.info/Yotpo. Have you yet downloaded our ebook? To celebrate reaching episode 500, we've created an epic e-commerce success-focused ebook for you, packed with 500 top tips about how to make your e-commerce store more profitable, featuring the advice of many, many past guests alongside industry experts and many of you as well, our listeners. I've checked every single tip and organised the whole thing into sections for you, making it super easy to dip in and dip out and take inspiration as and when you need it. This ebook needs to be sat on your desktop or even printed and sat on your desk. Download your free copy right now at ecmp.info/ebook. Get 2024's most valuable e-commerce ebook now, ecmp.info/ebook.
It's time for the top tips round.
Okay, I love this section because it gives me and our listeners some really quick ideas for taking our businesses to the next level. Chris, are you ready for the top tips?
Go for it.
Okay, the book top tip. If everyone listening to this podcast agreed to take Friday off and read a book to make their business better, which book would you recommend?
I would say the one that I've just read, which is Predictable Revenue.
Ooh, what's that about then?
It's about...
And don't say predictable revenue.
It is... Well, in finance, you've got like a finance manual. In operations, you've got an operations manual. This is kind of like a sales manual for sales. So like we have brand guidelines in marketing and stuff like that, but you know, applying the same philosophy to sales is actually quite a very interesting book.
Oh, nice. And is that a kind of traditional sales, or does that go as far as kind of across all the channels for sales?
It's mainly outbound lead development is that channel, but maybe in the creative individual that I am, I've then been able to apply it across inbound and account management as well.
Because you don't want a different philosophy ruling different parts of the business, do you? So
too complicated, try to keep it as sweet and simple as possible.
Oh, excellent. I will have to check that out myself. A traffic top tip. Which marketing method do you either prize above all others or think doesn't get the press it deserves?
I love affiliate marketing these days. I love audience share. So where we can kind of do, because of the price of Meta and Google these days, I think if brands, many hands make light work, and if we can plow each other's fields, then it's just a lot lighter touch to be able to do audience share. So, if there's brands that are listening to this that think we'd be a great match with Cheeky Panda, then reach out to me. We're always up for a collab.
Nice. So both kind of traditional affiliate marketing, but also collaborating with other brands serving a similar market.
100%.
Nice. One of the most underrated channels in e-commerce in particular, I think. My journey started off in the world of mail order, where those kind of partnerships and parcel bounce backs and those sorts of collaborations were bread and butter. And then D2C arrived and everybody seemed to stop doing it. So I love that you've recommended that.
Well, it's made a right old renovation, actually, the leaflet drops.
Yeah.
They've come right back. And a lot of people do that in their D2C packs now as well. And you'll sort of see that in, if you get like, I'm a member of the National Trust and I'm also English Heritage member, and I get little leaflets of, people saying, hey, subscribe to my wine or my beauty box.
Always fascinating as a marketer to see what comes with which magazine. Yeah, I'm with you on that. The tool top tip, maybe a collaboration tool, a social media plugin, a phone app, or just a way of working. Is there a cool little tool you use that makes you and your team more efficient from day to day?
I would say Monday CRM is our, actually Monday.com, and then we have the CRM bit, but probably Monday is the thing that if you took it out of our business, we'd really struggle because of the collaboration and running projects multiply across different things, and not always having to have meetings about it, and you can just get the updates and flow as it is. And, I think if we didn't have a tool like that, we'd almost need to create one. So that's probably our top tool that we use.
Yeah, we use Asana here, and I don't know how anybody can run a business anymore without one of those types of tools, be it Monday, be it Asana or something else, because they are just so I find myself thinking in the structure of Asana when I'm thinking about a new project. I'm sure it's the same on Monday.com, so I love that recommendation. The carbon top tip. What's your favourite way to reduce the carbon footprint of an e-commerce store?
Don't offset. It's a cheater's way out, right? Take ownership of your supply chain. Try to work with the right partners. Ask them tough questions. And that's how you reduce the carbon footprint. I am a believer that there's no such thing as net zero. Everything that we touch and everything that we eat and everything that we do creates carbon. But I'm a believer of a thing called carbon neutral. And what that means is with all the plants and all the ecosystems in the planet, that they produce enough, absorb enough carbon for all the stuff that we emit, that we can be neutral. And I think that's probably the goal. We need to stop moving away from these taglines, and we need to take more ownership of actually how to get to a neutral place rather than a place where we're producing more than where the planet can absorb.
Lovely take on it. Thank you for that, Chris. Now, before we say goodbye, could you please let the listeners know where they can find you and your business on the web and social media?
So cheekypanda.com and Cheeky Panda HQ, you'll see if you go on there, maybe we're recording a little bit in advance, but when it comes out, it'll probably be about a month back. The panda getting chased down the aisle, and I'm sure there'll be lots of other very funny panda things to look out for. And keep an eye out for us on all channels.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming on the show. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you, and thanks for sharing so many nuggets and bits of inspiration for the audience. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chloe. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Wow, I can't believe that was less than half an hour. Chris and I covered so many topics in there, loads of cool stuff to dig into. The part about staying in your lane and knowing who you are as a business and focusing on that rather than reinventing the wheel in finance or manufacturing or logistics. And then I thought his take on where the sale comes from, channel to channel to channel, was so interesting, and partly, reflects the size of the business and where they've got to in the business now. I'm sure in day one, when they had two channels, that he'd have had a more solid idea of where he wanted the orders to come in. But now as they grow and as they're chasing that household name status, it has clearly evolved to be more of we want the product sold and we're not so worried about the location. Clearly a guy who really understands his target customer and the market he's operating in too. You can get your hands on our notes from this episode, including those top tips and links to what we mentioned, by heading over to ecommercemasterplan.com. You can also use our direct episode short links. Just put ecmp.info/the number of this episode into the URL bar and you'll be redirected straight to the right page on the site. When you get to the website, you can also add yourself to our email list so you don't miss out on any of the other things I share to help you improve your business. If you liked this episode, then make sure you check out episode 509, where I'm chatting with Jenna Tannenbaum, ex of Who Gives a Crap? Can you say Who Gives a Crap and Cheeky Panda in the same podcast episode? Yes, it appears you can. And in that episode 509, Jenna is taking us through how she built their crazy growth. And on the website even, we have a whole page with all our D2C brands that you can go and peruse and find our other big D2C interviews. And that's ecmp.info/DTC. Thank you for tuning into this and every episode that you do of the e-commerce masterplan podcast. I bring you a new interview every week because I want to inspire and help e-commerce business owners to succeed and thrive with their businesses, including, and let's edit this on the fly, progressing along the path to carbon neutral. We won't say zero today. So if you know someone this show can help, please tell them to listen to the e-commerce masterplan podcast. Hope you have a great week, and don't forget to keep optimizing.
Thank you for listening to the e-commerce masterplan podcast. Find out more at ecommercemasterplan.com/podcast.
Are you using Yotpo for your email and SMS campaigns? Then you will already know the great news that they're sunsetting their email and SMS service at the end of this year. I know it's not the news you wanted to hear this close to peak. Yay, let's move our email system. So to help you with all of that, over on the eCommerce Tech website, we are putting together a couple of blogs to help you to navigate it all and to turn this surprise into a brilliant move for your business. One that can even, or certainly has the potential to even increase your peak performance. To get the blogs, go to ecmp.info/yotpo. That's YOTPO and ECMP. And there you can read my 4-step plan to make the most of the situation. And you'll also get a roundup of advice from email marketing experts about what you should do. So ecmp.info/yotpo.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.